People don't fall short because they lack intelligence, strength, or talent. They fall short because they lack discipline. The person who says, "I'll begin tomorrow," doesn't realize that tomorrow turns into next week, then into next month, and soon a whole decade has passed without action. A fragile mindset always finds a soft excuse. It says, "I deserve a break," before any effort has even been made. It whispers things like, "This is just who I am," convincing you that transformation is for others, not for you. But if you keep feeding those excuses, you'll wake up a year from now or 10 and still be in the same place, mentally, emotionally, and financially stuck. That's why discipline is so powerful. It doesn't ask how you feel. It asks who you're trying to become. It doesn't settle for comfort. It insists on growth. Discipline is the tool that chisels your life into something meaningful and extraordinary. While motivation may excite you for a moment, it fades. But discipline stays. It's quiet, it's firm, and it works. Success doesn't arrive for those who wait around hoping for motivation. It comes to those who train their minds to be consistent. It's not about being flawless, it's about being loyal to the process. Doing the work every day that most avoid, so one day you can live a life that most can't. It's a hard truth, and most would rather ignore it. But that truth is exactly what separates those who win from those who repeat the same patterns. So today, let's be real, some people stay broke, not because they're doomed, but because they refuse to trade weakness for strength, comfort for dedication, and excuses for effort. More importantly, let's talk about how you can rebuild a mindset that's designed for wealth through the power of daily discipline. Here's the beautiful part. Strength works the same way as weakness. Feed it, and it grows. You don't need to have been born with discipline. You don't need a perfect track record. You don't need a life-changing miracle. What you need is to begin feeding your mind better thoughts, feeding your habits more structure, and feeding your life with higher standards. I remember sitting in my cramped apartment, broke and frustrated, staring at an empty bank account, asking, "How did I end up here?" And the answer was plain. I had been nourishing the wrong parts of me. Every excuse I made, every shortcut I took, every time I said, "I'll do it tomorrow," those were meals I served to my weakness. So I stopped feeding it. Cold turkey. I stopped coddling my excuses. I stopped letting my emotions dictate my calendar. I stopped justifying mediocrity based on where I came from or what I had been through. And I started feeding my mind good things, books that challenged me, mentors who pushed me, systems that tracked my growth. I started setting goals that made me a little nervous and demanded I grow into someone greater. And what happened? My mindset changed. And once your mindset shifts, your life follows. Let's make this practical. Say you want to be financially free. That doesn't mean just wishing for more money, it means learning how money works. Most people stay broke because they fuel their weakness with consumer habits instead of creator habits. They spend on entertainment but never invest in education. They dress for appearances but ignore internal growth. If you want to eliminate a weak mindset, start saying no to anything that steals your future and start saying yes to anything that builds it. It won't always feel exciting. In fact, it's often dull. Waking up early to read, skipping a night out to finish your plan, refusing to complain and instead choosing to act. Those aren't flashy moves, but they are the bricks of a solid future. Every choice you make is a meal. You're either feeding your excuses or your potential, and whichever gets more nourishment wins. So here's the bottom line. Weakness doesn't disappear just because you want it to. It fades when you outwork it. It weakens every time you pick purpose over pleasure, action over emotion, discipline over indulgence. That's how you earn long-term results. That's how you become someone that success recognizes and respects. Because one of the most powerful shifts you can ever make is giving up the impulse to feel good now for the commitment to feel proud later. I've said this before and I'll keep saying it. Being broke is rarely just about money. It usually starts in the mind. A weak financial life almost always follows a weak mindset, and that mindset worships one thing: instant gratification. It craves comfort now, even if it costs you later. That's the trap. It doesn't shout, it whispers. Just buy it. Just skip it. Just wait one more day. And every time you agree with that voice, you take a step backward. Let's look at money, because that's where this shows up most clearly. You can tell how someone thinks by how they spend. Broke thinking is obsessed with how something feels right now. That new gadget, that expensive outfit, that fun night out, they're not wrong. But if they consistently come before saving, investing, and learning, they become liabilities. I've seen high earners living like they're poor and low earners building wealth. Why? Because it's not about how much you make, it's about how you think. Wealthy thinking is long-term thinking. It asks, how will this serve my future? Not, how does this make me feel right now? Discipline in one part of your life strengthens every other part. Saying no to the candy, no to the impulse buy, no to the meaningless scroll, those build muscle. Mental muscle. And that muscle translates into decisions that create real value. And no, it's not easy. You'll feel resistance. Your old self will beg for ease. Your friends might not get it. That's fine. You're not chasing fast wins, you're becoming someone who can sustain big wins. Wealth isn't just an income goal. It's a byproduct of the way you think, the way you act, and the way you choose to spend your time and energy. So if you're serious about letting go of the broke mindset, start here. Stop asking what feels good now. Start asking what brings you closer to who you want to become. Because the moment your decisions stop being ruled by fleeting emotions and start being guided by long-term vision, that's when everything changes. Here's something that shook me early in life, and it flipped my world. No one is coming to rescue you. It may sound blunt, but it's one of the most freeing truths you'll ever hear. See, a weak mindset waits. It waits for the timing to be perfect, for someone to open a door, for life to cut it a break. It believes that maybe, just maybe, someone will step in and hand over the solution. But that kind of thinking doesn't lead to progress, it leads to passivity. It's why so many people stay in the same place year after year, waiting, hoping, blaming. I get it. I know what disappointment feels like. I've stared at a version of my life I didn't want and felt the weight of wondering how it got to that point. But stare too long, blame too much, and you'll start believing that your future lies in someone else's hands. And that belief, that's what steals your power. Because the moment you tell yourself that change is outside of you, you stop moving, you stop growing, your dreams stop belonging to you. But here's the beautiful twist, you can flip that switch at any moment. You can look in the mirror right now and decide, it's on me. My life, my responsibility, my results. And when you own that, something inside of you clicks. You start to operate on a new level. You stop expecting and start executing. Back when I was younger, I used to complain a lot. If only I knew the right people. If only I had more money. If someone just gave me a shot. But eventually I realized those if-onlys weren't helping me, they were holding me back. I was handing over my future to people who didn't even know I existed. So I stopped. I quit the blame game. I ended the waiting. And I got to work. Bit by bit, I read. I stayed later. I arrived earlier. I learned from those ahead of me. And little by little, things started shifting, not because life changed, but because I did. That's the secret most miss. Life doesn't change for you, it reacts to you. It mirrors your mindset, your effort, your standards. So what are you willing to tolerate? Are you okay with calling the same patterns your life year after year? Or are you ready to interrupt that cycle and say, not anymore, from now on I take full control? That's when growth really begins, not when you wish things were better, but when you work to make them better. Now let me ask you something tough. If a friend spoke to you the way you speak to yourself, would you keep them around? Some of you are in a toxic relationship and it's with your own self-talk. You buy all the books, you attend all the seminars, you chase every strategy. But if you don't fix the way you talk to yourself, none of it will stick. You can't speak defeat and expect to win. That's not mindset, that's sabotage. See, people who stay stuck replay their limitations like a loop. I've never been good with money. I'm just not disciplined. Success isn't meant for me. They call it honesty, but really it's hypnosis. Every time they repeat the story, they reinforce it. Every time they rehearse what went wrong, they write a script to relive it. But the successful, they speak differently. Not because everything is easy, but because they've learned to use language as a tool, not a trap. When they mess up, they don't say, I failed. They ask, what can I learn? When things feel heavy, they don't say, I can't handle it. They remind themselves, I'll grow into someone who can. I've been in that place where fear and doubt scream the loudest, where failure feels close and quitting feels comfortable. But I also knew this. If I let those thoughts lead, they'd run my life. So I got intentional with my language. I started writing down simple truths. I'm becoming more disciplined. Every setback is a setup for a comeback. Wealth isn't a dream, it's a formula. And I repeated those, not because I believed them yet, but because I needed to start hearing something different. Your brain is always listening. It builds your world based on your words. Keep saying, I'm stuck, you'll feel frozen. Keep saying nothing works, you'll keep missing solutions. But start saying, I'm growing. I'm figuring this out. I'm becoming someone wealth gravitates toward. And slowly your mind starts catching up to that new script. Say it before you see it. That's how change begins. Plant the seed with words. Water it with action. And stay consistent, not perfect, but deliberate. Train your inner dialogue the same way you train a muscle, with focus, repetition, and intent. Because if you don't lead your mind, it will lead you, and often it will lead you backward. But the moment you start speaking like the version of you you're aiming to become, things begin to shift. You think sharper, you show up stronger, you act with alignment. That's how transformation begins, by rewriting the story you tell yourself. Speak like the future version of you is already listening, because they are. Here's something most people need to hear. Comfort is a liar. It's soft, it's soothing, and it sounds like it cares about you, but it's not your ally, it's your trap. Comfort will tell you you've earned a rest long before you've earned the reward. It'll whisper, hit snooze, while your future quietly slips out the back door. Comfort is seductive, but it costs you everything. And if you're not careful, you'll organize your entire life around avoiding discomfort. You'll avoid effort, avoid failure, avoid pain, and by doing that, you'll avoid growth too. Weakness worships comfort. It chooses the easy road, the slow lane, the weekend mindset. It avoids challenge and clings to routine. But success, wealth, impact, those don't live in comfort, they're found in the resistance. I learned early that wealth doesn't just show up at your door. It doesn't land in your lap while you're binge-watching shows. It's not drawn to those who snooze 5 times and coast through their day. Wealth is attracted to those who live with intention, who treat discipline like a strategy, who sacrifice temporary pleasure to build permanent freedom. Not because they hate ease, but because they love results more. I remember the morning's 5 a.m. alarms when I didn't feel like moving, the parties I skipped, the distractions I turned off. And no, it wasn't fun, but it was foundational. The discipline I developed during those years became the backbone of the freedom I now enjoy. Because once you've built the ability to push when it's hard, to move when it's uncomfortable, you earn the right to design your own life. The wealthy don't avoid the grind, they master it. They don't wish for convenience, they build capacity. They know the truth: if I do what others won't now, I can live how others can't later. That's not a slogan, it's a mindset, it's grit. It's the quiet, daily commitment to keep going. And here's what no one wants to admit: success doesn't always feel good. If it did, everyone would have it. The process is uncomfortable. You'll face your laziness. You'll confront your distractions. You'll have to show up when it's not convenient. But the reward, that's strength. That's character. That's the kind of resilience that can't be bought, it's earned. Every time you skip ease, you build capacity. Every tough choice adds bricks to your foundation. And over time, that structure becomes unshakable. Comfort gives you temporary relief. Discipline gives you lifelong power. You have to decide, do you want to feel good right now, or do you want a life that feels good every day? Because you can't have both. If you're truly serious about creating wealth, start by confronting your need for comfort and replace it with the hunger to grow stronger. Because when you build inner capacity, wealth becomes a byproduct. Now let's talk about time, the most equal resource on the planet. Rich or poor, you get 24 hours a day. But what you do with those hours, that's what separates the builders from the bystanders. Weak people treat time like it's infinite. They act like there's always more, so they waste what they have. They scroll, binge, delay, and hope that something magical will change their life. But wishing isn't a strategy. Execution is. The wealthy see time as their greatest investment. They deploy it like a weapon. Every hour has a mission. Every task has a reason. They don't stumble through the day, they command it. I used to have no money, no following, no connections. But I had a clock and a pen. I started organizing my hours. planning each day the night before, asking myself, what's one move I can make tomorrow to inch closer to my goals? And guess what happened? I stopped surviving my days and started leading them. Because here's a rule: money follows management. If you can't manage your time, you'll never manage wealth. Your calendar is your blueprint. If your hours are all over the place, so will be your future. If your day runs you, you're running in circles. People say, I don't have time. But truthfully, they haven't made time. They haven't traded scrolling for studying, haven't traded comfort for consistency. Time reveals what you value. It exposes your discipline, and it builds or breaks your momentum. Every wasted hour is an unpaid bill to your future. So here's what to do. Structure your day. Don't treat a calendar like a cage, treat it like a launch pad. Even 30 minutes of focused work is more valuable than hours of distracted effort. Wealthy minds live with urgency. They don't ask for time, they take it. Because in the end, you harvest whatever you planted with your minutes. And if you want to stop being broke, start by budgeting your time like your money. Guard your mornings, own your focus, and remember, your future is hidden inside how you spend your time. When people think about building wealth, their minds jump to strategy, systems, and skills. And yes, those are important. But here's what gets overlooked, what silently sabotages more futures than failure ever could: your environment. The people around you are not neutral. They're either pulling you forward or pulling you down. And if your circle is full of complainers, excuse makers, procrastinators, then you're inhaling their mindset every time you sit next to them. It spreads like a virus. Hang out with low standards long enough, and you'll start calling average good enough. Early in my journey, I didn't have influence, money, or reputation, but I had one weapon: control over who I listened to. And what I noticed was undeniable. When I spent time with those who rationalized failure, I began to do the same. But when I surrounded myself with people who lived at a higher standard, who demanded more, expected more, I couldn't help but level up. Their mindset challenged mine just by existing. See, a weak mindset feeds on weak company. People with soft thinking comfort you when you need challenge. They say, it's okay to quit, when what you really need is to push through. They mean well, but they're dangerous to your growth. Sometimes the people who love you most are the ones who unknowingly keep you stuck because they don't want to see you uncomfortable. But growth doesn't live in ease. It lives in tension. It lives in rooms where the conversation is bigger than your current life. You don't need 100 people cheering you on. You need 3 climbing in the same direction. 3 voices louder than your doubts. 3 people who say, we don't lower the standard here, we raise it. And yes, sometimes that means walking away. Not because you're better than them, but because you're becoming better than your old self. Loyalty to the past cannot be stronger than your commitment to your future. If iron sharpens iron, paper friends tear under pressure. You need to be sharpened. You need to be in environments that provoke, not pamper your greatness. You need tables where people talk about building, not blaming. Habits, not hacks. Discipline, not drama. That's where strong minds are shaped. Your environment is your soil. And what you plant in that soil, your thoughts, your goals, your discipline, will only grow as strong as the ecosystem allows. So choose wisely, because the ceiling on your life will rise or fall with your circle. Now, let's be honest. Most people believe wealth is about how much you earn. But here's the truth. Wealth is a habit, not a paycheck. You can hand a broke mindset $1 million and they'll be broke again within the year. But give someone with discipline and vision a modest income, and they'll multiply it. That's the power of habits. Wealth doesn't start in the bank, it starts in the mind. If you want to build wealth, don't just chase more money. Master the behaviors that allow money to stay, grow, and serve a greater vision. It starts small. Saying no when you want to say yes. Skipping the impulse buy. Investing in the long term instead of indulging in the short term. Back when I had very little, I still tracked every dollar. I saved even when it hurt. I reviewed my goals weekly. That wasn't about my wallet, it was about who I was becoming. Weak mindsets spend emotionally. Feel bored, shop, feel tired, splurge, feel behind, borrow. Then they call it truth. I'm just not good with money. But that's not truth, that's a habit that hasn't been broken yet. Until you master discipline, more income won't save you. It'll just expand your poor decisions. Discipline is doing what's smart even when it's not satisfying. Want the wealth formula? Spend less than you make. Invest the difference. Be consistent over time. That's it. It's not about complexity, it's about consistency. Too many people are chasing the next hack, shortcut, or hot tip. But wealth isn't built with tricks. It's built with boring, repeatable actions done well again and again. Skipping the upgrade, cooking at home, paying yourself first. Those aren't exciting, but they're what wealth is made of. I've seen people retire with dignity on modest income. I've seen people with six-figure salaries living in quiet financial panic. Money won't manage itself. If you don't command it, it will leave. And don't forget, discipline includes giving. If you can't give when you have $10, you won't give when you have $10,000. Generosity trains your spirit to rise above greed. It reminds you wealth isn't just for getting, it's for becoming. So start now. Track your money. Save before you spend. Give before you indulge. Build habits today that wealth will thank you for tomorrow. Because your bank account is a mirror of your mindset. If you want to change it, change what you believe, say, and do with your money. Act like someone who builds wealth, and wealth will begin showing up. People often ask, how do I find success? But the truth is, success isn't something you find. It's something you construct. You don't stumble upon transformation, wealth, or greatness as if you've tripped into it on accident. You build it brick by brick, habit by habit, day by day. And you build it through discipline, through daily action, through quiet commitment, through personal evolution. You are not stuck being the person you've always been. That version of you, the hesitant one, the excuse-making one, the one waiting for something to change, isn't permanent, it's optional. But here's the catch. It doesn't vanish with time. It only disappears through intentional action. You can't outgrow the old version of you by hoping it fades. You have to replace it. Not by punishing yourself, but by choosing better. Every time you make your bed, you're not just tidying up, you're setting the tone of order. Every time you hit the gym while tired, you're not just working out, you're building discipline. Every dollar you save, every moment you delay gratification, every excuse you silence, those are the tools shaping your identity. Years ago, I had to face the truth. I was filled with potential, but empty on execution. That's when I made a decision, not an emotional one, not a dramatic one, but a clear internal choice. I will become a builder of systems, standards, and habits that could support the person I wanted to be. That decision didn't create instant success, but over time, it created a new life. Transformation didn't come from one big leap. It came from 1,000 quiet, disciplined steps in the right direction. It came from early mornings, hard conversations, changed environments, and better habits. If you want reinvention, you have to release what's familiar. Most people don't change, not because they don't want to, but because they don't want to lose who they've been. But you can't have a new identity and cling to an old story. You can't become someone new without letting go of who you used to be. But here's the beauty of discipline. The more you practice it, the quieter your weakness becomes. That voice in your head, the one that used to shout, "You can't," soon it just whispers, then it fades. And what takes its place? Clarity, confidence, purpose. You stop waiting for the world to shift because you become the shift. You stop needing hype because you've created momentum. You stop seeking permission because opportunity starts seeking you. You stop asking life to open a door, and you become the person that doors recognize. So when you feel stuck, remember this: you're not waiting on change. Change is waiting on you. Discipline is the key. Your new identity is on the other side of it. Open that door. Step through it every day, without noise, without drama, just relentless, quiet consistency. Because wealth, it doesn't land in your lap. It's not given to the lucky. It's earned by the disciplined. So let me leave you with this. Success isn't some gift from the sky. It's a result, the outcome of choices, habits, and sacrifices. And if you're waiting for a miracle to change your life, you'll be waiting forever. But if you show up every day committed to the uncomfortable, to the boring, to the growth, then you become the miracle. So don't wait, don't hope, don't wander. Decide. Kill the weak mindset. Cut the excuses, silence the noise. Start building. Become someone success can't ignore. Because your future, it's not waiting on luck, it's waiting on you.